Ethan didn't yet know that the HOA had already hired a tow truck, and it was coming sooner than he expected. Ethan had always admired his grandfather's vintage 1965 Mustang, a shining piece of history that symbolized resilience and family, pride. When his grandfather passed, the car was left in Ethan's care, parked carefully in his driveway under a protective cover. To Ethan, it wasn't just a car, it was a memory of long rides, stories of courage and the wisdom of an old man who had lived through tougher times. But the Homeowners Association, HOA, didn't see sentiment. To them, the Mustang was an eyesore that violated their rules on driveway appearances. They argued the car should be stored in a garage or removed entirely. Ethan calmly explained its importance, but his words fell on deaf ears. The HOA began sending warning letters, each one more threatening than the last. Ethan ignored them, determined to honor his grandfather's legacy. Yet, unease began to grow in his heart. He knew they wouldn't stop until they got their way. One chilly morning, as Ethan sipped his coffee, he noticed unfamiliar men surveying his driveway. His stomach tightened. Something told him the HOA was about to escalate matters and his grandfather's beloved car was in danger. The rumble of a heavy engine echoed down the street that Saturday afternoon. Ethan stepped outside and froze. A tow truck was idling in front of his house. The driver, a burly man with reflective glasses, jumped down and waved a clipboard. "Got orders from the HOA. That car's gotta go." Neighbors peeked from their windows, whispering behind curtains. Ethan's heart raced. He stood firm in front of the Mustang, demanding paperwork. The driver shrugged. "Don't matter. They called. It abandoned property. I'm just doing my job." Ethan's voice shook, but his resolve didn't. "This car belonged to my grandfather. You're not touching it." The driver smirked and motioned for his crew to prepare chains. Ethan's fists clenched. He felt helpless, until he remembered something his grandfather had once told him. A Mustang isn't just built to run, it's built to fight back. Ethan rushed inside, rummaging through drawers until his hands closed on the keys. If the HOA thought they could haul it away like scrap, they had another thing coming. With the tow truck revving and chains rattling, Ethan slid into the driver's seat, ready to put his grandfather's words to the test. The Mustang hadn't roared in months. Dust clung to its hood, and the air carried the smell of oil and old leather. Ethan's hands trembled as he slid the key into the ignition. For a moment, silence mocked him. Then, with a deep growl, the engine came alive like a lion awakened from slumber. The tow truck crew froze. Neighbors gasped as the classic car thundered to life, its headlights piercing through the daylight. Ethan revved the engine, the deep rumble echoing down the street. The driver yelled, "Cut it off! That thing's not going anywhere!" But Ethan knew better. His grandfather had kept the Mustang in pristine condition, ensuring it would never fail when it mattered most. With a sudden lurch, Ethan backed the car down the driveway, forcing the tow truck to inch backward. The driver cursed, waving his clipboard helplessly. Ethan parked the Mustang across his driveway, its gleaming chrome defiant against the HOA's demands. The car wasn't just protected, it was now a barrier, a shield against anyone who dared take it. The HOA president herself would soon arrive, furious and determined, but she didn't realize the Mustang had just turned the whole neighborhood against her. Word spread quickly. Within minutes, neighbors gathered outside, drawn by the standoff. Some admired the Mustang, whispering about its value. Others muttered about HOA rules. But one thing was clear, the car had become a symbol. Mrs. Thompson, the elderly neighbor who had known Ethan's grandfather, stepped forward. "That car is a treasure, you can't just take it!" she shouted at the tow truck driver. Soon more voices joined her. The HOA president, Mrs. Clarkson, finally arrived, her arms crossed and face stern. "This neighborhood has standards," she snapped. "We will not allow rusting relics to clutter our streets." Ethan's jaw tightened. "This isn't clutter. It's history. My grandfather built this community before your rules even existed." Her glare wavered as murmurs rippled through the crowd. People remembered Ethan's grandfather, his kindness, his hard work, his stories. One by one, neighbors voiced support, emboldened by the Mustang's presence. The tow truck driver, caught between orders and the crowd's anger, hesitated. Mrs. Clarkson's face reddened as she realized control was slipping from her hands. Just when it seemed the neighborhood was siding with Ethan, Mrs. Clarkson revealed she had one final weapon, an official city ordinance she claimed gave her full authority. Mrs. Clarkson waved a folded paper triumphantly. According to city code, any unregistered vehicle parked in public view can be towed without notice. This Mustang qualifies. The crowd grew tense. Ethan's pulse quickened. Was she right? He hadn't checked the registration in months. But then Mr. Reynolds, a retired attorney, stepped out from the crowd. "Not so fast," he said firmly. "That ordinance applies to abandoned vehicles. Clearly, this one is not abandoned." He gestured to Ethan in the driver's seat, the engine still rumbling proudly. Cheers erupted. Mrs. Clarkson sputtered, but her voice was drowned out by the sound of support. The tow truck driver lowered his chains, unwilling to risk the wrath of neighbors now fully united. Ethan exhaled, relief flooding through him. For the first time, he realized the Mustang wasn't just his grandfather's legacy. It had become the heart of the community. Though the tow truck retreated, Mrs. Clarkson wasn't done. She vowed revenge, and Ethan knew the battle with the HOA had only just begun. A week passed. The Mustang sat proudly in Ethan's driveway, drawing admiring glances. But Ethan remained wary, knowing the HOA president was plotting. Then came an unexpected knock. A younger man, dressed neatly, introduced himself as Daniel, the grandson of the tow truck driver. "My granddad told me what happened," he said. "He said your car reminded him of his first ride. He felt guilty even trying to tow it." Daniel revealed he was a mechanic and offered to help restore the Mustang fully, making it shine like it had decades ago. Ethan hesitated but felt his grandfather's spirit nudging him. Together they worked on weekends, buffing, tuning, and polishing. The car transformed, its once faded paint gleaming under the sun. When Ethan drove it down the street, neighbors cheered. Even skeptics couldn't deny its beauty now. The Mustang wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. Mrs. Clarkson, however, grew more bitter by the day. And when she called for an emergency HOA meeting, Ethan realized the final confrontation was near. The HOA meeting was packed. Tension filled the air as Mrs. Clarkson demanded Ethan remove the Mustang or face heavy fines. Ethan stood tall, the keys in his hand. He didn't argue. He invited everyone outside. Under the evening sky, the Mustang gleamed, restored to glory. Ethan slid into the driver's seat and started the engine. The powerful rumble silenced the crowd. "This isn't just a car," Ethan said. "It's a memory, a legacy, and a piece of this community's history." Applause broke out. Even board members who once sided with Mrs. Clarkson couldn't deny the car's place in the neighborhood. The HOA voted, and for the first time in years, Mrs. Clarkson lost. The Mustang was allowed to stay, legally and proudly, as the crowd dispersed. Ethan sat behind the wheel, whispering to the night, "We did it, Grandpa." The Mustang's headlights flickered, as if nodding in agreement. The HOA tow truck had been defeated, not by force, but by legacy, unity, and a roaring engine that refused to be silenced. Mrs. Clarkson stormed away that night, but everyone knew the Mustang had already won, and so had Ethan.